Show up on my side. I think we are live. Yes. All right, I see it. We are live for sure. So, we are back. Jennifer and I did our first episode. What are we calling it, Jennifer? Go Monday or something?
I've just been calling it "Let's Go"
Let's go.
because
All right.
because
Sounds
it's
good.
it's so accurate.
All right. Well, let's go, folks. We're, yeah, so Jennifer and I, we were here last Monday on the first Let's Go episode. Um, we went into the generics proposal last Monday. That was like a super cutting edge thing for Go. It is, yeah, it's still a draft proposal. It hasn't obviously been adopted in the actual Go distribution. It's super prototype and test software right now. So that was really fun to go into that with you, Jennifer. It was kind of a cool kickoff stream.
Yeah, and we will definitely go back because we did not finish at all. But I wanted to bug you about um, the workflow because I think it's something that we all assume that everyone just understands what it looks like to get sort of like streamlining how you code, and it's applicable to not just Go but just like any language. There's so much that we learn over time, and then we just assume people that started a new company that like need to learn a language as well as learn how to work with the language. And so I know you've been using Go for a long time,
Yeah.
so you probably have a really nifty workflow.
Yeah. I would love not only to show what I do, but also start from zero. I actually like uninstalled all of my VS Code editor stuff, so we can start kind of from zero on that scope. Um,
Oh
but
wow,
But before we
magical.
do, let me just make two announcements. So, one,
Cool.
Jennifer and I did another stream that was not related directly to Go on Wednesday. And part of that stream at the beginning, I mentioned that there is a code of conduct for all of my streams. So, that code of conduct is in the description below the video of the stream that you're seeing. So just read over that. It's like less than a paragraph. Just explains what the code of conduct is. It has a link to the actual text of the code of conduct. Um, just want to make sure everyone knows this is covered by the code of conduct that's linked down there. And then the second thing is,
Fantastic.
yes, I meant to put that in there a long time ago. I just didn't realize it was actually in there. So now it is. Yeah, second thing is the chat. So all the streams that me and Jennifer do, the chat is always open for comment and question. So please post in there if you've got anything you want to say or you want questions answered. We really periodically go in there and talk about what folks want to talk about. All right. So, Jennifer, where should we start?
From the beginning.
Okay.
I
From the
I
beginning.
think I'm not alone in a lot of folks currently use VI or Vim uh, in the ops space to configure things, and I'm kind of curious. I personally do use VS Code, but um, I would love to know from scratch what is an optimum way to configure and deliver code in Go for on VS Code.
All right. So the very beginning then.
Yeah.
This page is the very beginning. So like if you've never even seen Go, go to golang.org, Golang right there. And this is kind of like the homepage for Go. It's got their kind of tagline, links. It's got some articles and videos. It's just the basics. I mean, you can even try it out. Like you don't have to install Go and it runs Go. Oh, I
Oh
didn't even
wow.
know this.
That I didn't realize the playground. There was like a little snippet. That's kind of cute.
Yeah,
I just love the playgrounds. I think all languages need a little playground to play,
Yeah,
so you
I've
don't
seen
have to
that
just
catch
install.
on too.
Yeah.
Like other languages now are getting playgrounds, and I'm like super distracted now because they have these different like these are non-trivial programs. Like check this out. This is massive.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
Can you like will it open it up in Playground? Like,
yeah, looks like it. Yeah.
oh, cool.
What is this? This is a 100 line program. It's pretty cool. And like it runs. You can kind of get familiar with stuff. Obviously, if you've never seen Go code, probably start with like, let's go back. I would probably just start here. And like, this is this is sort of similar to other languages. I mean, obviously, Go is sort of loosely based on like the syntax of C. So
Mm.
there's some stuff you can kind of make out. I mean, obviously, the main function is the main function from C, and it's like the entry point. But Go has more, and there's plenty of learning that you can do. And I think the best place to go would be you click through here. Yeah, this doc getting started is just like how do you install it, and then this tour of Go is. I mean, this is where I started. This is where many people start. It's
That's
like,
where I've started, and like at some point I've derailed, and
ah,
and
that's fair. Yeah,
it just it becomes hard sometimes to focus on
yeah.
one thing.
Yeah, I mean, how far do you have to go to really understand like that hello world yeah, hello world playground code snippet? Let's see. This first part is like just administrivia kind of. This has a little overview of
It's kind of
like
like
good and
let
bad.
me show you what it like Hello World.
Yeah. So let's see. How far do you really packages? It goes a little deep, like a little. It goes deep pretty quickly. So I guess this isn't like this is a thing to like sit down on a Sunday or an evening, I think, and go through. At least the way that I do things like this in general is I just go through, almost go through the motions and just accept like I'm not gonna like I'll be happy if I understand like 50% of what's going on here.
That's an interesting way. Maybe that's my failure mode, is because for me, like I see something and I'm like, okay, what is this thing and what is it doing? Let me understand a little more. Let me tie it to something I understand. Not just like drop here's like this particular syntax, but tie it to something that I've experienced before, things that are different as well as the same, so I can be specific in my understanding rather than
Yeah,
sometimes where it's like, oh, I learned this Ruby way of doing things, I learned this Perl way of doing things, and it's, I don't know,
it's too
it's
much.
they all get munged in my head, and like
Yeah.
I'm writing Perl Ruby.
Yeah. It's like I'm the same way. Like I have to, oh, I feel like I have to just relate it back to everything I know from before Go or before whatever I'm learning. And it's like, it's too much. Like my head explodes after like 3 pages of this. So that's like, I just try to go back and be like, all right, this is a brand new thing. I'm going to try to unlearn everything from other stuff that I know in the past and just like accept this like accept this for what it is and then just really know all right, this is a reference. I'll probably come back to this like 20 times over the next 2 3 months before I'm comfortable going off and doing programming in Go without this thing. That's I mean that's how I roll with a lot of stuff, and that's just me. Like it works for me. But if you do go through this, there's a lot here. So that is a that's like a strategy that you can take to
It's kind of like let's drop all the syntax on your head. And
yeah,
like it's fine. Like that's the core components that you need to know about a language, is like kind of the rules. I actually read something on Twitter. was it yesterday or today? And it was like things that you learned in school that are wrong. And one that really stuck out to me because it's like inherent in our language, is that chameleons change their skin color based on their surroundings. And it kind of made me think, because like the premise is like you learn incrementally in all of these subjects in school, and so then you learn these things that are actually kind of wrong, but
Hmm.
the way that they're teaching you is that is building up your understanding. And the chameleon one really stuck with me and kind of was like this lightning bolt, because I did not know that chameleons do not like try to hide themselves in their environment. They're basically the way that it works is that it's like hormonal.
Hmm.
They're actually expressing themselves, and like uh, so if you say that you're a chameleon, you're not blending into your environment. You're actually communicating more about what's going on internally,
Hmm.
and uh, a physical manifestation. So I was like, oh, so our language has evolved to do this. So
Interesting.
why I'm bringing this up? Sorry for this
No,
long
no.
tour.
Can
Is
I'm ready to hear how this comes back, how this relates to
is
Go.
that in terms of language learning, I just had this moment of like, oh, okay, no, you're right. Like it's okay to learn stuff, like have exposure to these little incremental pieces, even if it conflicts with what you understand from something else. It's the incremental learning that we have in school. Like
Yeah.
you just start from scratch and it's okay. And you build up that understanding. And even if what it does is not doesn't match exactly what it says at the beginning, it's as you progress and you learn to keep questioning it later,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. And
So
go back, like nowhere to go back and see. Oh, I didn't like I thought var C was like kind of weird, but I'm going to go back and like reread this and kind of I don't know, add one little extra piece to my understanding of what variables do in Go.
yeah, it was one of those things. I don't think we actually live streamed our very first session, but
Yeah.
there was something that I was asking you about, like, is this a copy or a reference? Like, how does it update for
Oh yeah.
variables? As
Yeah.
one of those things, like, oh, this is can be really tricky and it's understanding, but if like we think about it like by except it's okay that
Yeah.
I learned something and then it can be totally wrong. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and it's like obviously our if I go into here, I actually remember when I went through this, it was a little different at the time, but it's the basic idea. When I went through this, I was like I basically read this highlighted part and I just like tuned this bool out. So I was like Go is supposed to be statically typed, so where the hell is the static type? And like I couldn't get past it. And I wasn't like tired or anything. I was just like, where is it? And so I had to like accept it. It was very painful to accept that like, okay, this doesn't have a static type on it. Where is it? And I ignored it here as well. And I think in the next couple samples I ignored it there too. But then
Wait,
like
what is this doing now that I'm looking at this? What is, sorry, this is totally not
it's really
configuration of
bad.
your editor, but like, is that, okay, so it is making all of those Boolean.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, that's
Except
so
for this.
distracting. C, like when I first read that, C is like, oh, that's just this random character.
Yeah.
But it's
Exactly.
actually like, look, it's all languages.
That's
They're
what
all.
I did. That's what I did too. I was like, okay, well, C is just random in the wind, and Python and Java, they're in the wind too. But yeah, like I had to come back a couple times and go figure out what this is actually doing. All right, should we go back to
Cool.
golang.org?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna type it again. Yeah, so this is cool. Like this page is pretty it's like a pretty dense page, but it's a good place to start. And obviously they are pointing you where to go with with this button. So you click through and if you are on Mac OS or Linux, Mac OS has a Go in Homebrew and Linux has a Go in Linux Brew, and I think they have a Debian package as well. I don't know about Windows, but basically it is to say there's a Go in like the package manager of your choice, but I really recommend you download it directly from here anyway, just because some package managers will alter Go for whatever reason. Like some package managers, there are edge cases like FreeBSD that will alter it for their checksum. Some of them will have old versions and they just don't upgrade very quickly. Some of them literally just stopped maintaining it for whatever reason. So you'll be on like Go 1.8, whereas like the current version is Go 1.14. So anyway,
Made me want to go check like what what
yeah,
version I
Homebrew
have
is pretty
installed.
good, I think. Let's see. Golang. No.
Oh
Go.
yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, so Homebrew is pretty good. I know they update about a week late. So, you can. I'm not saying never do it, but um, long term, I would say if you're really going to develop Go for like production use, go here, download it from here. And like I downloaded for Linux because I'm using WSL2, and it's literally just unzip and then move a binary into your executable path. That's pretty much it.
Cool.
So you can click on here and it'll literally walk you through everything. Like you download
Hmm.
it, you run this command, and then you're done. And that's fairly straightforward. Apple and Windows have installers, which are nothing. You click on it and then you're done. So yeah, I've already done this. I've done it on my WSL2 environment, so I am going to skip that. But this is exactly what I did. I downloaded it. Um, I downloaded the AMD X64 archive. I did this. I already had this done, so that was it. Now I had Go. So after you install Go, I would recommend going in here, running like the Go is the Go compiler toolchain. It's actually everything. It has compilation, static checking, and a lot more. So you just go in and type Go space version, and you can see, just make sure that your Go version is up to date. This is a great way to just kind of check on the state of your system.
So if you're working on a project with somebody else, is there some kind of process to make sure that like everybody's using the same version of Go? Like,
Yeah, there is a file in modern Go projects that will enforce the right version of Go.
oh, nice.
Um,
What's that
yeah,
file?
it's called the go.mod. Let me
Okay.
show that in a second because
Okay, cool.
that's gonna pop up real fast for us. So let me go to the chat real quick. CGDS online. Is it common in the Go community to use a Go version manager? It's not really common, to be honest with you. I think I think the reason that it is not common is because Go is really easy to install, and it also doesn't really change often. Um, well, I should be more clear about that. The actual Go version changes pretty often, but the Go language, like the standard library for Go, is guaranteed to be compatible from the whole time it goes in version 1 dot anything. The standard library is always going to be backward compatible. So I think there is at least one out there. I think it's called GVM, but it's just not that common to use something like that in the wild in like big projects.
So if you're working on one project and everyone is using like Go version uh 14.1, and then in another project people are working and it's 14.3, what is your Go version and what caused that? Like, is there going to be conflict? Are you going to downgrade, upgrade?
No, if you have 14.3, in almost all cases, you will be fine. You can still compile the 14.1 as well.
Okay,
And it's just because of that backward compatibility thing.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so should we create our first project?
Sure.
All right. Just make a directory for it. What should we call this? Go get going? I forgot the name.
Let's go.
Yeah, I got to remember that.
It's so difficult.
It's, man, it's really not, but I just have a terrible memory. All right.
Okay.
New project. I am going to first initialize this project. I don't need to open it up in the editor yet. You do this thing called go mod init. So just to break this down, mod it stands for modules, and modules are like the unit of dependency management in Go. So it's like if you want to get that third party web framework, you would download a module that contains the web framework. It's
Can
like
we
you
back
want
up a
that
little bit?
dependency. Sorry?
So, like, let's back up just a little bit because I feel like that's like extra stuff. But we're talking about initting the project,
Yep.
and do you have to do go mod in it, or there's no go init?
No, there's no Go in it.
Okay.
The reason that I brought up modules is because my program is also going to be a module. So
Oh,
like
okay.
there's not really a difference in Go between like a library and an application. So everything's a module.
Everything's a module. Okay.
hmm So
Okay.
like there are modules that you can bring into your project and use as a library, but your app is also going to be a module as well. So when
So
you
how do
do,
modules and packages relate?
yeah, so packages are inside of modules. So if you
Okay.
grab Jennifer's module from GitHub, then inside of that will be like a package for utilities, a package for time stuff, whatever, database stuff. All the packages that go inside of that module are just encompassed in it when you take it into your program.
Cool.
So, go mod init. Go mod init gives you some good examples. You have to say what the actually this is a bad example. When you do go mod init, you have to type in the name of your project. So I'm going to do that, and it just says created new go.mod. So there's that file, go.mod.
What is a module path? Is that where it's going to get published or?
It's the name of your module or the name of your app, in other words.
Okay.
And what this means, like, I would say about 90% of the time, this is going to be the place on GitHub where your app's going to live.
And the idea is that it needs to be unique, which is
Yeah.
why it's got that, it's sort of the fully qualified
Yeah.
package name or module name.
Yeah. It's like if you're familiar with like Java or you've seen Java errors or anything, you've probably seen like com dot whatever.
The reverse thingy, the
That's
really
yeah,
long
yeah, yeah.
ones.
That's
Yeah.
the one. Yeah.
Got it.
This is kind of like that. Um,
Got it.
that's why I say like 90% of the time it's going to be a GitHub thing, because that's super, super easy to make sure that it's like it lines up with a place on GitHub where the code is. Also, like you said, that it's unique too, which is nice. All right, should we open it up in the editor?
That would be cool.
All right. So I have this handy command line tool called code.
Can you do tree first?
Yeah.
Is there a tree? I'm just,
Oh, I don't have tree.
or a long listing.
How about that?
Is there no secret? Okay,
This
so
is
that's the
everything.
only file that got created. Cool.
Exactly. Oh, I don't have tree. Wow. WSL2 comes with a skeleton crew of utilities, I guess. Um, yeah. So I have a handy little script called Code. It gets on WSL2. It gets automatically installed. If you're on a Mac, on NVS Code, you have to open the command palette and tell it to install the command line tool. But this is super handy because if you're inside of your directory on the terminal, you can hit it and you can open up VS Code just from that. So let's look at what the go.mod looks like first. So let's look at this. I mean, the first thing is it says module and then the name. So that's how, Jennifer, you were asking like what exactly is a module. This is how we're saying to everybody that our app is called GitHub/AR//Let's Go. And this is the thing that lets anybody else kind of like tell Go where to get our app. So I mentioned I mentioned that there's no difference between apps and libraries for Go. What this means is that someone else can run Go to actually download the source code for my app if they want to, and compile it too. So does that make some sense?
It does.
Cool. Um, I think we'll probably want to go into that later, but it's just kind of, I always think it's interesting that like there's no difference. Like Go just treats it all as a thing that you can build and possibly run if it has a main function in it.
I think of it. I think it seems pretty common, familiar something to me. Just that in other communities, for example, like chef cookbooks
Mm-hmm.
is a good one where it's like you can specify where the code lives, but also it's like when you're downloading things or pulling contents, it could be an artifact on a supermarket or a or GitHub repository. It could be any number of different things. So this feels like a familiar pattern to me.
Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, because I had never really thought of it this way because I had been coming from languages that were kind of strict. Like you had to say before you started your project, you had to say, is this going to be a library or an app? And then you would distribute your library or app as a pre-compiled thing. And like you could choose if you wanted to let people see the code, but if you didn't choose to let them see the code, they could still get it, but they would get like a binary. Or in
Mm.
Java, like I came from Java before Go, and they would get like a jar and some possibly some API docs. So it took me a long time to get my head around this. All right. Oh, and then this is what we were talking about, Jennifer, when you were like, what if they're using 1.14.3? This is what says you have to have Go 1.14.x in order to build this project.
So okay, so going back to that project, now seeing this, I can see why 14.3 and 14.1 wouldn't be a big difference. But what about like this is a terrible thing, but Go 1.8 versus Go 1.14?
Mm-hmm.
Is that still like I know you're saying backwards compatible? Does it force an upgrade, or does it just is there some mode like when it compiles that it only um, does 1.8
Hmm.
stuff, or
No, it just won't compile. So if you have Go 1.8 right now and you tried to build this app, it's just gonna say no, you don't have the minimum version of Go installed.
Well, so say I like a team that I'm working with, they have Go 1.8 in their project file, and I've got
Ah,
1.14 installed.
so this should
Do I have
build.
to downgrade or
No, this should build.
okay,
If you're building this with 1.14, yeah, you should be okay.
okay,
But there is a caveat.
interesting.
There's a
Okay.
caveat that this I want to mention this. This isn't actually a caveat. That's the wrong word. I just want to mention that this go.mod format only came out in Go 1.9. So so you picked the perfect version, Jennifer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So a
awesome.
1.8 program though, like they could put this file in and that's fine. It would still do the right thing. But a code base designed for 1.8, it would be very old and they would probably have upgraded since then just cuz it's kind of easy to upgrade. Um, but yeah, I mean this could happen. This file certainly could be out there somewhere.
I was just curious from a when the version manager question got asked, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a terrible problem in many of the other languages."
Yeah. Yeah.
And how it causes terrible problems, especially if you're downloading a dependency and
Right.
then you're trying to compile and you're just like, oh, okay, for this project it's going to be this version and this project is going to be this version so that we
Yeah.
can not have conflicts.
Yeah, Go tried to solve that in a slightly different way than I've ever seen before. Um, like a big part of their solution actually is just try really hard not to have any backward incompatible changes. And that's hard to do, but it's hard in a different area of the language than it is um, than to deal with it here. So it works. It
Cool.
works, I guess. Let me go to the chat. CGGS Online says, how is the module specification in the mod file used? Presumably we have to tell something to register it, but is it ever really referenced without using that full URL? So CGDS, it is used in this section called require. So require is the way that I pull in third-party modules, other people's modules into my app, so obviously I can use them. So for example, I might do this, CGDS, module ABC. This would tell Go to go and get the code in this module and bring it down into my project so that I can reference it in my project. But it will always be referenced as this URL, the full URL. So, and that goes for if someone else wants to get the code in my project, they would require this module name, github slash air slash let's go. And that goes for whether or not I'm an app or a library. So you could write module ABC as an app, like you could write a web app, but I could still pull in some of the code in your web app as a library for me to use. And that's actually a pretty common thing that people do in Go. So I'm going to upgrade back to 1.14. And should we go and get some IDE help, Jennifer?
I think so. That'd be good. I'm kind of curious because at the bottom of your like on the VS Code like configuration, like I can see like it knows your name
Yes. Good point.
and like what
So
stuff does it already know?
let's go left to right then. We've got, this is my WSL2 stuff. So this is saying that this VS Code is running on Windows itself, but it's connected to my WSL2 environment. Next up is, it's called the problems view. Basically, if VS Code knows stuff about this language, it'll pop up like linter errors, or if it knows it didn't compile or stuff like that. then my name. So this is VS Live, Visual Studio Collaboration. It's called. Is it called VS Live? Live Share? I think it is.
Yeah, it's VSI share. I just realized it has my name on mine. I never realized.
Nah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know when I configured that. It has a little medal too, a little star. I don't
Oh,
understand. I don't.
oh,
This is
nice,
very fascinating.
nice. Yeah, so I'll do this actually then I'll send you the link. I might as well just send everybody the link because it's going to be read only. And then anyone who has VS Code, if they want, they can just click the link and they should be able to join and watch my code, watch me code in VS Code instead of on Twitch. It'll just be for fun. We can see what
Yeah.
happens. Live share is the shortcut to do exactly what this would have done.
So you installed this extension.
Yes.
Okay.
Live share. You just search for live share in the extensions list that I'll show in a second. Um, we've got what language it thinks it is. So I don't have the Go extension yet. So it thinks it's XML. Line number, spaces, the encoding, uh, the end of line character, again, what language it thinks it is. I can tweet my praises or complaints about VS Code, and then there's a help dial. Or what is this? I actually have
Oh,
never used this.
wow.
What is this? I don't know what this is.
Your notifications, like if you have any. So
Oh,
like I've got one that says restart to get your Azure pipeline schema updates.
oh, interesting.
Anything that needs a change.
Cool.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Let me go back to the chat real quick. CGDS Online says there can't be a difference. Oh, so there can't be a difference between the module specification and the URL. Is it redundant? Um, this module specification essentially is saying where my project is going to be located. So it is, in that sense, yeah, it is redundant. Um, if you put like something like this, then your module will not be able to get fetched by someone else. And if that's okay with you, then of course it does not have to be redundant. But there is no central registry for Go modules. It's a federated system. So since there's no central registry, something in your module name needs to give the location of that code. So put in the chat if that answers your question or not. I feel like maybe I got it, but I'm not 100% on that. Does that make sense to you, Jennifer?
It makes sense to me, yeah.
Okay,
That was a helpful question.
cool. Yeah, so CGDS, put in the chat if you've got follow-ups to that. Because this is a good, I mean, that's a really on-point question. So thanks for asking that. But this is a really good thing to understand because this concept kind of permeates the code we're going to write as well. So let's get our extension set up. You can basically search for Go and get the one that says Go Team at Google. This actually was developed initially by a few people at Microsoft, and it evolved a lot over the years and integrated with different technologies behind the scenes. And eventually it was only developed by and maintained by one person. And then the Go team at Google took over development and gave it a lot more resources pretty recently, actually. And it's pretty good that they did that because now this integrates really well. It's getting better too, but it integrates really well with like the newest backend tools that do the syntax highlighting and the autocomplete, and basically what would kind of show up in VS Code as IntelliSense, which if you're not familiar with IntelliSense, you will be soon because you'll see it in action here. So,
Awesome.
ready to click the big green button?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Installing. And then it says reload required. So this, I would have thought that would have been here in notifications. Is that, maybe I'm thinking this
That
wrong.
I don't think so. I think that is what I would assume too.
Maybe it's something, only the most special notifications show up. Yeah, so reload required. Actually, one thing before I continue. Uh, this is the README, like under details. This is the README of the VS Code extension project on GitHub. And if you click on this Slack Gophers badge, it'll take you over to here. And this is where you can sign in to the Slack group for Go. But if you do not have an account for it, do a Google search for Gophers Slack invite. And this will pop, oh, maybe not. Get invite to Gophers Slack group, maybe? It used to pop up. Maybe not. Hey, B. Kettleson, if you have the link to the Gophers Slack invite site, can you put it over into the chat? I just want people to know where they can go to join the community. So hopefully we'll get that. Otherwise, I'll get it up on the YouTube description later on. But anyway, this is a really good resource. It's probably over like 10 million messages or something like that. And there is a channel in this Slack for everything. Everything from like beginners all the way to like hardcore compiler internals, and like wherever you are on that spectrum, there is more than enough than any human being could ever learn in a lifetime. So there's something for you. So I super highly recommend that you check it out. And the community is like, I can't say enough good things about the community. Like, I'm just going to go on a small little sidebar rant here, a
The
good rant.
community is fabulous. It's something that I have like it's one of the reasons I wanted to learn Go for the longest time. It's just like I've started so many times. The community is so fabulous and so welcoming. And I want to call out a few people. Carolyn is like magical. Like with Go Bridge and Women Who Go and these is it Carmen? There's so many people who are so welcoming in this community. Yes, Carolyn is fabulous.
So Carolyn is affiliated also with this organization, Women Who Go.
Did Go Bridge take over from Women Who Go? I feel like
They are partnered now.
okay.
So like check out Twitter /Women Who Go, all one word. This is a great organization. Regardless of your gender identification, this is a really great organization to watch or be a part of or help or really just know about. They do a lot of great stuff for the community. And also their location is an awesome pun. So if you're familiar with Go in the past, you will get that. If not, that's okay. You don't have to be anymore because that specific location is no longer necessary. So yeah, others in the community, do you have any other shout outs, Jennifer, for the community?
I want to make sure I get their Tasha has been amazing as well, but there is, I'm looking up their, is it Carmen Trocity? Carmen
Yeah.
Ando? She is amazing. I
I bet.
love her so much. She's so fantastic in the community.
And she is part of the Go team at Google. She does a ton of community work. She leads a lot of community initiatives at Google as well, just for Go. And like, given all that she does, she has never not had time for me. She's never been too busy, never like told me off, or really, she's just been an amazing human to me.
She is fabulous. So I also want to give a call out to GopherCon because that is an amazing conference. But one of the things about GopherCon is the opportunity for the Go community contribution. Like, I don't know what it's called, but I got to see Carmen in action in that community summit last year. And like, I was already a big fan, but she so deftly handled conflict in the community where it could have totally been derailed, like people having a disagreement, and she just like cut through it, like no feelings hurt, just amazing. Like she just was like, and we're doing this, and here's how we do, and like you voiced your things, and just like it moved things along, and I was like, wow, that is powerful.
Nice. I missed that, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that she did an amazing job there.
It was just so like it's one of those things where when I see this kind of meta work being done, it's often invisible and we don't call it out. Like it's just like, oh, it was a very successful contributor summit. Well, yes, because
Yeah,
you had someone who was like doing this work and so good at it. It was just so well done. So
nice.
yeah, such a fan of Carmen.
Yeah. So Gopher Con will be later this year. It's going to be in November, and there will be a virtual component to it that is going to be available. It hasn't been announced yet exactly what it is, but I can guarantee that it will be available.
I thought it got postponed to next year. I didn't think there was going to be anything this year. Did you just spoil
No,
some
look,
news?
it's on the site.
Oh, okay.
No, no, I did not spoil it.
Oh, awesome. Oh, awesome. I thought it was getting postponed to next year, and so I totally wanted to have a mini. I was having some feels. I wanted a go for one.
No, no, there's it's still going to go on in some way, shape, or form. But as every conference has had to do, we had to make a lot of changes given the pandemic. So we started planning that. I mean, every year we start planning about 3 or 4 months after the one that just happened. So yeah, we made a lot of changes. We're still making more, and we will get an announcement out about what's going to happen virtual wise as soon as we can. Still in progress, but soon.
Is Disney still happening next year, or is that just not happening at all?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I wish I could tell you. TBD, I think. I think it's TBD. We'll see.
I'm super curious how the contributor summit is going to go because that was such a magical experience for me. Like I even accidentally went. I mean, it wasn't on accident. Ashley McNamara, who's fabulous, and does so much and she's another person to talk about. But in the community, she is able to take these images and draw just compelling stories that are informative but also inclusive. And she's also my boss,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not why I'm a super fan. Though she's a great boss too. But her ability to convey information and be so inclusive is so awesome. Um, and I love the artwork that she does. Did she
Yeah,
do the GopherCon image here with the cups and everything?
I believe she did. Where? Yeah, I believe she did this. But if you are interested in any of the things she's done, she has a GitHub. GitHub Ashley McNamara, McNamara, all one word, /gophers. And this has everything. Like every gopher you could ever want is in here. And if you don't see one you like in here, you can go to gopherize.me and make your own. You can literally make your own gopher. Just wanted to shamelessly plug that. This is a pretty cool site. I think it says there are, what is this, 216 billion or so combinations of gophers. So may as well check it off. Check it out.
There also is the Women Who Go merchandise where you can get lots of cool stuff. Like I've got a few
Yeah.
mugs and a onesie with um, the mom and child gopher. Like that
Nice.
was like so cool. I think that Ashley's done some of these too. I could be totally wrong, but in the process of getting gear, you can support the Women Who Go efforts.
Yeah. So that's community. If you don't want to get this involved with community, that's cool too. It's just a great place to get technical questions answered, or answer technical questions, or get involved with a project, support an OSS project. You can get involved with Go itself. So lots of options there. I wanted to go back to the chat real quick. There's a good discussion in here still going on about modules and dependencies. So B. Kettleson answered a lot of it. I just want to go and add one or two more thoughts. So CGDS Online says, I was just trying to figure out if there was some ulterior motive since the URL exists and is referenced outside the mod file where it is also declared. Just seems like it's taking a note of where it should have come from. I wonder if the language developers are going to do something more with it at some point, since where it came from could be information stored upon retrieval and not committed to the module pulled. So CGDS, you're touching on a really good point, and that is that previous to Go 1.9, the only place that modules could be pulled was from the version control host, GitHub or Bitbucket or whatever it is. And previous to 1.9, this file didn't exist. This go.mod file was not a thing. So at that point, it was noted upon retrieval, like you said. But now, modules is a system of dependency management that was added in 1.9. So at this point, modules can be stored in obviously GitHub or the code repository that you write them in and you commit to. But also by default, they're now delivered by an HTTP server that the Go team hosts. And you can host your own HTTP servers, but the default is to get them from HTTP, like asset servers. So it's no longer necessarily the location that the code is actually being delivered from, but it is the location that the code is stored. So there's a really important distinction there that in many cases, at least, this is where the code is stored. It just may be served from somewhere else. So this is a huge topic, modules. And these questions are kind of making me think we should do a episode in the future about modules. So I'm going to take a mental note of that. And
I'm going to put it in the repository for our stream.
Sounds good.
As a topic.
Yes. A little to-do reminder. So yeah, CGDS, tune in. In the next couple Mondays, we're going to do a stream about that. Because this is probably the place, the little subset of technologies in Go that I'm most interested in and passionate about. So we'll do a 70 or 80 hour stream in the next couple Mondays where I just talk the whole time.
Did you say 70?
That's right, 70.
So it's
It's
like a 3,
okay.
4,
Yeah.
5
Was that 5? Yeah.
days.
Yeah, only
7
80
days.
hours. Yeah. No, so we'll do something on that soon. Because it's a good one to know also kind of before you get super deep into the language because it helps you visualize and conceptualize how to organize your code too. So we've got 5 minutes. I'm gonna hit the blue button, the reload button, and then maybe bring in like the hello world file, and we can see how it's like highlighted and how it looks. Sound good?
Cool. Sounds good.
All right, reload it.
We have barely gotten into the workflow.
I know.
It's okay. So when you reload, is that restarting something in the back, or is it just reloading some configuration? It
So
doesn't restart VS Code.
yeah, it just like refreshes VS Code. And I don't know exactly how that works, but I'm guessing since VS Code is built on Electron, it's doing something like a refresh, like a browser might refresh the page. Shrug.
Interesting.
I mean, that's completely guessing off the cuff, but it's just that, like, if a browser can refresh a whole JavaScript, HTML, CSS situation, I'm wondering if this can too. But also in the background, there is a set of tools that this module uses. The most important one is called Go PLS. Go please, it's called. It's pronounced.
It
So,
really.
yeah, go please. This thing is where much of the magic happens. Almost all of it. Almost all of it that you see on a regular basis. It's called a language server. And what it does is it basically indexes your code as you write it. And then VS Code can do queries for specific things about your code. So, for example, this is kind of what I was saying about IntelliSense. IntelliSense. So it's like if you were to click on a function call, then it'll take you to the definition of that function right away. Or there's other things like you can see where is my function being called, or what does this variable do, or XYZ, tons of other stuff. Um, so let me go back to the chat one more time. CGDS, before you leave, you said parting questions. Sorry for semi-monopolizing chat. Please don't worry about it. Please come back and ask us more questions in chat, make comments. That's what keeps this thing interesting and awesome to me, at least. So you ask any good Learning Go with TDD resources you'd recommend. Not off the top of my head, but check out the YouTube page. I'll put some in the YouTube description. Go
That
to
is actually where I wanted to go,
oh
sort of with this particular thing.
okay
Originally, because one of the things I really like about sort of not forced TDD, but kind of so I kind of would love to get to that next week because there
okay
aren't a lot of resources like out there that actually aren't just like here's some basic TDD processes, but like if you want to really write code um, that is tested like as you're writing it, like understanding those mechanisms.
okay.
There just doesn't seem to be a lot of resources out there. I mean, there's a few resources in different languages, but there's got to be some specific things in Go. Um,
Yeah, let's talk about testing next week then. That sounds great. Cool.
uh, okay, so we are talking about Go, please.
Yeah.
Yes, Go, please. Uh, so I want to so one of the things I think is super interesting about VS Code, I think you kind of said this, is the whole fact that you can have like these different language servers that are abstracted away, like instead of it's embedded into VS Code itself. And
Mm-hmm.
then this is something I was like learning a couple years ago about VS Code, and the power here is like these language servers can then be potentially used in different other code editors
Yeah.
as well. So it can provide that familiarity rather than like, oh, VS Code does this particular way. So I kind of think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, it's totally not a Go thing, but it is a Go thing
Yeah.
too.
I mean, it's kind of
So
like it is. Yeah. Like you said, it's like a separation between Go Please is implementation, and then VS Code is one of the like presentations of it. And I mean, it's not just a Go thing, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of the way that all of these languages are starting to do like the editor fancy things. There's a component that's not editor related at all, and then the editor stuff just plugs into that via a standard interface. By the way, that interface is called Language Server Protocol. You can go to langserver.org.
yeah, it's kind of it's magical. I love it
Yeah.
because it means like we don't have to be like having different implementations across editors.
Yeah,
You can have the same things in common as long as you have whatever extension installed.
exactly. Yeah. And this extension will also install a lot of those tools that you need behind the scenes. It'll install them for you. It just didn't do that for me because I had already installed them from a previous installation of this.
That's what's really interesting. Like I wanted to figure out a way to share configuring VS Code from scratch because I have learned in trying to teach other people different pieces, it's still there. You
Yeah.
remove it and then you install it. It's
You
so
know what we
maybe
can
something for
do?
next time.
Yeah, next time I'll just spin up a new WSL VM and
That'd
then,
be cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one last thing. Let's put a
Okay.
main.go in and let's just see what it looks like. So I'm just copying from the front page, and I'm gonna just call. I'm gonna make a file main.go, and this is kind of the standard for the first file in your project to call it main.go.
I
And the
love that
reason,
it's got the little blue go.
yeah, it's got the go, and look, it's got the racing, like it's going really fast. It's perfect.
And it no longer, well, it recognizes it as go down
Yep,
there at the bottom.
exactly. Oh, what is it? I've never seen this before.
You got some spell checking.
Cool. That's what I need in a programming in an IDE spell checking.
I actually use VS Code to write my book, like author modern system administration.
Nice.
And so spell check is actually really useful. It's annoying to me.
I just meant for writing Go. Like I don't.
Well, no, that's the thing. It's really annoying when you're writing code though, because
Yeah.
it'll like you start to type something and it's like, I'm not done yet. It's
Yeah.
stop trying to
It's gonna
correct me.
like spell check FMT. Like I don't need that. So let me just do a quick rundown of like the features we have here. So obviously syntax highlighting, green for comments, blue for these are things called keywords, but let's get into that later. White for like identifiers. Again, let's get into that later. Yellow for functions and function calls. And then we've got strings and we've got, these are those modules again. So FMT is pronounced fumped. Yes, fumped, not format. For some reason, it's fumped. Um, so yeah. But also, if you want to know more about fumped, you can command click or control click. Let me X out of this. You can command or control click like that, and it'll show you the package that fumped is inside of. And remember, I'm sorry, it'll show you the module that fumped is inside of. Remember, modules can have packages inside of them. But it also will open up a link to the documentation for fumped. So I'm going to click open here and boom. This is the standard Go documentation site. So this has documentation for all Go code that's public on the internet everywhere. So CGDS, I don't know if you're still online, but this is the place where you would put the name of the package or the name of the module, either one. And this is a centralized place to get documentation for the federated modules that are out there. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of weird that there's a centralized thing and then a bunch of federated things with different naming things. But yeah. Almost like there's a whole little ecosystem here, huh? Indeed there is. Indeed there is. This is a great site. I think this is one of the biggest enablers and contributors to the growth of the Go ecosystem. At least for me, I'm biased because I end up having like literally probably 40 tabs open. Each of them has a different, like there needs to be a browser, like a Chrome plugin to like figure out what tab is what Go documentation tab is what or something like that.
You're like, I have this many tabs open all the time. I'm like, yep, that looks familiar, and also you can see them right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we've just grown the number of tabs as we go. Yeah, so you can like this is a standard library one. This is built into Go. You don't have to add it to your dependency list or anything, but you can also get ones that are third party. So I'll show one that's like a tiny little one, tiny little module that I wrote for fun and for example.
Oh,
So
check it out.
this is generated documentation. It's generated from my code.
Nice.
And then they've got other stuff. They've got the README from GitHub, subdirectories, versions. So this is really good. Notice how the versions are semver, semantically versioned. It's got import graph stuff to figure out what does this thing import. So it imports only standard library stuff. And you can tell it's standard library because it is not a URL. So it's not github.com or anything else like that. Standard library stuff does not have URLs in it. Figure out who imports me. I am not a popular package, so nobody uses me. And then the license. Yeah. So I think that's probably all of the stuff we're going to have time for today.
You gotta run it. Like
Oh yeah, you're right. You're
you
right.
gotta do that one thing.
So I am
Let's
a
see some hello worlds.
all right. So I'm a bad VS Code terminal user. I don't really like using the VS Code terminal. So I'm gonna run it inside of WSL. So let me clear the screen. So you just do go run and you put a dot. So the dot means run the main function in the current directory. So I could do this, but I don't like typing that much, so I'm just going to do that. So go run behind the scenes. This is not a scripting language. So go run is actually compiling the thing and then running the thing. So compiling the binary from my code, running the binary, and then it's caching the binary behind the scenes as well. So imagine I have like a million lines of code and I just downloaded it on my computer the very first time. Go run is going to take like, I don't know, 10 seconds to finish and actually run the app. But the second time I do it, it'll be way faster because everything's cached. Now, if I go and change some code, then it has to figure out what parts of the cache to expire and which parts to not and all that. But even in that case, it makes it incrementally faster just because it's already compiled so much of the program. So yeah, I had to nerd out a little bit on the caching thing there, but go run is go run.
Cool. We will have to test it out in
Yeah.
a future episode.
Yeah.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you. And thank you all on the chat for showing up and joining us. We will be back next Monday at the same time and same place. So 11 a.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/ARSCHLES. So it sounds like next week testing. Is that right, Jennifer?
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll take.
Cool.
I think start from here and start going into the testing parts.
All right. In that case,
Awesome.
I will check this code in and put it on GitHub
Fantastic.
into the clouds. Last thing, on the channel description below, there's a link to the YouTube channel. So you can see these, this and the previous ones. They're all recorded. They're put up on YouTube. So enjoy. Alrighty. I think that's it. Bye all. See you next week.